we can draw those lines. As a next thing, we don't only want to draw the lines, but we also want to draw multiple lines, which means as soon as we draw another line, we also want to have the previous line. Currently, the problem is that we call this clear rectangle function every time we start dragging something. So if I just press down, I can get that point drawn from handle mouse down that is being drawn. But as soon as I press down and move my mouse, then this part will be called and I will clear the rectangle. And as I said before, we need that because if we don't have that, we just draw a lot of lines and it starts to look less than a line and more than just like a white, huge white thing, because we just draw so many lines and we never clear the canvas. So for that, I would start out with first moving this logic out and make it maybe a little bit clear what we do here by adding a function for it. Okay, function clear canvas. What we do in there is just we get the context in it and we clear the canvas like that. Okay. Now what we want to do is draw multiple lines, and to do that is every time we kind of press down and move around, we need to clear the canvas first and then not only draw the current line, which we get in here, but also the previous lines. So we need to save the previous lines. How can we do that? Well, we can just create an array. And then we already create those beautiful objects which declare our lines, and we can just say lines.push and say line. And down here we can also say lines.push line. And now we not only need to draw one line, but we need to draw all lines. So let's call a function which is called draw. And the responsibility of this function is just to draw all our lines. So how can we do that? Well, we can call lines.forEach and say function line, have our callback. And for each line, we want to call draw line. So draw line, context, and then also we want to pass in our line up here. So if we call draw line, all those lines are being called. And now what we do is not we draw that single line, but we say, hey, we just add the line to the lines storage or array, and then we just call the draw function, and the draw function will draw everything. Same down here, we won't call draw line, we will just call draw. Beautiful. And another thing is we want to move this clear canvas function from within this handle mouse move to the draw function, because before we draw, we want to clear out the canvas. So every time we draw, we first want to clear out the canvas. Okay, that's that. So we just have those draw function which we call after we added the lines. Let's have a look. So I can add the dots. So far everything is nice. If I pull something, the dots are still there, but we still have this problem here, because if we look at lines currently, we already have 212 lines. And the problem is that as soon as we say mouse down, we push this line. But what we also need to do is, once we move our line, we need to remove the previous line, because at the moment we just add so many lines that in the end it looks the same as before. So I need to remove the line which I added before every time I move, and then I need to refresh. then I get this functionality of only having one line. When I release, that line is being added to the array, and it's being drawn every time. And then as soon as I press down, I again add a line to an array. Once I move my mouse, I remove the previous line and add the new line because the position changed. And that's how we can get this functionality of having multiple lines, also just those dots when we press down, and more lines to our canvas. So what do we do here? We created an array to store all our lines. Then instead of drawing our lines in our functions, we just say, hey, push the line to that lines array, draw the line, or not draw the line, just draw. So it draws all the lines. And down here we say, hey, remove our previous line, which we created when we pressed down, and then create a new line and add it to our lines array, and then draw that new line. So that's what we have over here.